The following story is not really from the Stone Age, but most young people probably think 1879 was the Stone Age. My great-grandfather, Professor Richard Austin Rice, was teaching at the University of Vermont in Burlington at the time, and went hiking with another professor referred to as Smythe, probably George Adams Smythe, professor of chemistry and physics, trying not to climb but to walk around the base of Mount Mansfield. It is a good example of everything not to do when hiking, so please do not try this yourself. Smythe returned 3 days since. Yesterday we undertook the excursion we had often talked of, a walk around the base of Mount Mansfield. We hired a horse and buggy and drove 17 miles to a farmhouse near Underhill Center, where we left them with a farmer. He gave us some directions for the walk, and we began to climb the slope towards the north. We had brought a luncheon, and as we had breakfasted soon after 6 o'clock, we were quite ready to stop just before noon and rid ourselves of the necessity of carrying any parcels. The path we followed was not very clear, and on reaching the top of a southeastern spur of the mountain late in the afternoon, we were enveloped in a dense mist, and as the trail was entirely overgrown with grass and bushes, we lost it altogether. After hunting for it in vain for nearly an hour, we struck through the forest, directly south towards the road coming up to that end of the mountain from Stowe. It was a rough scramble over rocks and trees. We came out near a small house not far from the road. We asked for something to eat, but could get nothing, and were told that we might possibly get food at a house a few miles farther on, at the entrance to the trail to Underhill Center. On our arrival at this spot, the house proved to be a one-room cabin, in which were a woman and a young child. She had no food in the house except a few crackers. I tried one but could not swallow it. Smythe refused to taste it, and a drink of water was the only entertainment left. She was possibly a little frightened by the sudden appearance of 2 men at such an hour, for it was already dark. However, we met her husband at the edge of the forest, who was coming home with a rabbit and some birds for their supper and Sunday meals. He told us the trail to the high road was 4 miles, half of the way through dense woods, then across a swamp, over which a corduroy road had been laid. Here we were to be careful to keep on the tree trunks, for if we should step off, we would go into the mire and water over our heads. In the forest, too, we must be on the lookout for bears that might be coming down to the brook to drink. As he could not be saying these things in order to induce us to stop with him over the night, we took the information for what it might be worth. Once within the forest, it was so dark I could not see my hand. The night was very cloudy, and as Smythe was quite unused to traveling in dense woods at night, I had to lead the way. Occasionally we came to a slight clearing, where it was possible to see a few steps ahead. In such a spot the path forked, and Smythe insisted we ought to take the right-hand trail. I felt sure we should keep near the brook that was on our left hand if we were to reach the swamp of which we had been told. But to allay his fears I struck onto the right-hand path, that proved to be a mere timber trail and soon came to an end. We turned back and had some difficulty in finding the fork, but the brook helped me, and we went on again in the path by its side. The path was so rough I more than once fell headlong, and most of the way I could only know that I was in it by the feel of it under my feet. A tree or stump was a darker blackness. If it projected in the way, it might be a bear. At last we came to the corduroy road. I fell once on this and plunged my arm into the mire up to my shoulder. We crossed the swamp safely, and after a while came into an open field in which was a small hut, evidently to store hay for cattle. It was securely locked, and we went on. The path had now disappeared entirely, and we soon came to a rail fence that we climbed. As we were sitting on it, we could see the lights of a village in the distance, 2 or 3 miles away apparently. Not knowing what might be between us and it, we were settling our minds to the prospect of sitting there the rest of the night, when I spied a single light off to my right hand. It seemed to be not more than a mile away, and I said, "If you will follow, I will go for that light. It is steady and must be in a house." It was now after 9 o'clock, and the light might be put out at any moment, but we started towards it. I had not gone far when I walked over the edge of a cliff, landing in some brush at the bottom. I was not hurt seriously, only scratched and shaken up. Fortunately, Smythe was a little distance behind me, so that I was able to stop him by a shout. If he had fallen upon me, the consequences might have been worse. I told him to get down on his hands and knees and try to find a way around a cliff, which he did. At that level we had lost the light, but climbing a small tree I found it again, and we once more set out to reach it. Several times as the tree got in the way, I thought it was out, and we would have to stay where we were till morning. Finally we came to a road, on the other side of which stood the house. It was again a one-room cabin. A man was busy making small butter firkins, and his wife was getting ready for bed. They had no food to spare and could give us only a drink of water, but with the word that the road led directly to the village, that was not more than 3 miles away, we felt that our troubles were ended. When we got to the farmhouse of my acquaintance, there was no one at home, but I climbed in at a window and we soon had a fire started in the kitchen. Coffee brewing, eggs sizzling, bread, butter, cream, and cake on the table, in quantity sufficient to stifle a 10 hours' hunger. Before we had finished the repast, the family came in. They had given up all expectation of our return, thinking we must have gone to Stowe for the night and were visiting a neighbor. When we told them what we had done since 8 o'clock, they were somewhat incredulous and said that it would have been better if we had gone to Stowe. They had but one room to offer us. Smythe slept well, but he snored so that my slumber was interrupted. This morning we came home in the rain, arriving just as our acquaintances on the hill were on their way to church.